It's good to see so many of you from so many different countries. I'm amazed at someone in Australia because it must be halfway in the middle of the night. So thank you for joining. My name's Nick Charge. I'm an Assistant Director at Cambridge ESOL with responsibility for our higher level English examinations. Now, as you can see from the map on your screen, Cambridge ESOL has candidates from over 130 countries. There are 50,000 preparation centres and 400 staff who work in 24 offices around the world, and we have over 3.5 million candidates a year. Before we look at the changes to the exam, I'd like to give you some information about Cambridge Assessment and about Cambridge English Proficiency. This is an introductory seminar that we hope will help you in highlighting the key changes to the exam. And we'll be looking at the background to the test and the organisation. We're also going to give you the rationale for why we made the changes. And then Ron will be going through the changes to the papers in more detail. We'll then conclude with some information about support materials. And as Pippa has already said, there'll be a question and answer session at the end. So, first of all, Cambridge Assessment was established 150 years ago. We're an international exam group and a not-for-profit organisation. We're a department of Cambridge University, comprising 3 exam boards, as well as having the largest research capability of its kind. We advise governments and NGOs, we partner industry leaders, and we deliver the best products and services. Recently, we've produced a Principles of Good Practice document to help describe some of the key concepts involved in quality language testing. This document is free to download from our website. We've just looked at Cambridge Assessment, and now we'd like to look at Cambridge English Proficiency, which is over 100 years of proven quality. It's tried and tested since 1913. It's underpinned by research, and it meets the standards of quality. There are lots of reasons you may choose Cambridge English Proficiency. Let's just look at some of them. First of all, it's internationally recognised. It's fair to all students, regardless of their language, gender or ethnicity. It supports candidates with special requirements. For example, there are braille papers and there are large print versions of the tests. It's reliable. And we know this because it's backed by the largest research programme of its kind. Cambridge English exams provide the most reliable reflection of English language skills. It tests real-life skills and it's fit for purpose. It's designed for academic and professional purposes. It's flexible and it's well supported. But another key factor in choosing an exam is recognition. Cambridge English Proficiency enjoys wide recognition globally by universities, employers and government authorities. The URL on your slide shows where you can go for recognition information on all Cambridge English exams, including Proficiency. And if you follow the URL, you can find this information out. Cambridge English Proficiency is accepted by the top universities in the UK that recruit international students. It's also recognised by the UK Border Agency. Now, we know that international students are interested in the possibility of working after they complete their studies, and Cambridge English Proficiency is recognised for both purposes. It's also recognised for UCAS points. Cambridge English Proficiency is one of the only 2 English language exams to be granted UCAS tariff points. The recognition of Proficiency and Cambridge Advanced within the UCAS tariff points system is a different kind of recognition because it allows candidates to count these qualifications alongside A-levels towards their overall UCAS tariff score. But we'd like to know what you know about the revised Cambridge English Proficiency. And there are 5 questions here. A, B, C, D and E. Can you tell us, by clicking on the letter underneath your name, which of these is the most interest to you now? Right, that's interesting. That's interesting. And there's a wide range of answers. Some of you want to know about the new format, but most of you want to know about what the main changes are. And that indeed is what we're going to be covering in the next 20 minutes or so. And now, I'd like you to tell us what you already know about the changes to the exam. Again, there are 3 statements here. Can you choose the option A, B or C? For example, if you know a lot about the changes, then choose A. And if you know nothing, then choose C. Right, okay. Well, that's reassuring in that the majority of you have indicated that C is the answer, and I hope that over the next 20 minutes we can change that into an A. So why are we revising the proficiency exam? Well, we've got a number of aims. We want to make the new test suitable for higher education study purposes, but also for career enhancement. It needs to have a modern and fresh appeal, but we want to maintain the appropriate and specific testing focuses for each paper. It should reflect the most up-to-date methodological approach to communicative language testing. We want it to be user-friendly and accessible. And most importantly, we want it to set the standard for C2 level English examinations. Now, I'd like to hand over now to my colleague, Ron, who's going to give you further information about the changes we have made to the exam.
Thank you, Nick. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Ron Zeronis, and I'm the Assessment Group Manager for Upper Main Suite products, and I'm responsible for the team that produces Cambridge English Proficiency. Now, let's look at an overview for the revised Cambridge English Proficiency. For those of you who are very familiar with the current exam, what do you notice about the key changes? If we look at this comparison between the revised proficiency and the current proficiency, you can see the changes more clearly. The main changes are there are now 4 papers instead of 5. Reading and use of English are combined into one paper called Reading and Use of English. Although there are 53 questions in this new paper, the total available marks are 72. Questions are weighted differently across the paper, however, they are equally distributed between the reading and use of English sections. The whole paper is worth 40% of the total marks. The writing paper is shorter and includes a brand new task type in Part 1, which we'll look at in a few moments. The writing paper carries 20% of the marks. There is no change to the timing of the listening paper. It's still approximately 40 minutes. But we have introduced a new task. And again, the weighting for this paper is 20%. The speaking test is slightly shorter than the current length, and the format has been slightly modified. And the speaking test carries 20% of the marks. Now, the whole exam is approximately 2 hours shorter. And if you look at the slide, you'll see it comes in at just under 4 hours, at 3 hours and 56 minutes, which is quite a difference from the current test, which is 5 hours and 59 minutes. Not 6 hours, 5 hours and 59 minutes. Now, the new exam will be available in either a paper-based or computer-based format, allowing candidates to enter in their preferred mode. This allows candidates greater flexibility when selecting their test date. Okay, now we'll look at the papers individually. Let's look first at the paper that, in many ways, has undergone the greatest changes between the existing and revised Cambridge English Proficiency in terms of length. The majority of test focuses from the current reading and use of English papers have been maintained in the new paper. Those of you familiar with the current exam should recognize a lot of the task types, which are the same. For example, we've retained the open-close, the word formation, the keyword transformations, and so on. One of the tasks is new. Which task is new to Cambridge English Proficiency reading? In other words, it's not in either the current reading or use of English paper. It is, in fact, the multiple matching in Part 7. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Now, although a new task type has been added, the multiple matching, it's not new to Cambridge General English exams. Versions of this task also appear in Cambridge English First and Cambridge English Advanced. Including it in Proficiency provides continuity for those candidates advancing through the levels. Okay, I'd like to talk through a summary of the main changes to this new paper and give you a little bit of the thinking behind how we arrived at these changes. We decided that we wanted to combine two of the papers. One of the key issues for us, and feedback from our users was telling us was very important, was that the exam should be shorter. As we saw, 6 hours is quite a long test. One way to do this efficiently and effectively is to combine papers. We looked at a number of possible combinations. We wanted to find the one that was the best and most logical. We did research, we did market surveys, and in the end we decided that reading and use of English was the best combination. These two papers in their current format do share a number of key features. Most of the tasks in the use of English paper are text-based, for example, and of course the reading is all text-based. And there's a certain logic to working at word and sentence level in use of English and broadening out the focus to include whole text level and more abstract ideas in texts. So we arrived at the change. The combination would be reading and use of English, and that's proved very popular when we have trialed this test. Now the order is very important as well. Which tasks should come in which order? We decided that the use of English tasks should appear first. Candidates are eased in with the shorter tasks, the shorter texts, working at word and sentence level, and as I said, they widen out to the more abstract and more complex reading skills found in the reading paper. Again, trialing showed this was the most effective order for the tasks. Now, with the introduction of the multiple matching task, we have added skimming and scanning as test focuses into the paper. That didn't previously exist, so we have added additional testing focuses. We've also had to modify some of the existing task types to make them a bit more efficient. So what you'll find is that overlap between current tasks has been eliminated. So we don't want to test the same thing more than once if we don't have to. So we've added testing focuses and we've eliminated overlap. The wide range of testing focuses, including lexical, grammatical, lexicogrammatical, mean that nothing has been lost by combining these two papers. Now on the slide in front of you, you'll see 4 statements. Which of the statements best reflects how you feel about the changes? Please choose A, B, C, or D. Thank you very much for that. Most of you would like to look at the changes in more detail. That's not surprising. There have been quite a few, so I would encourage you to do that. But we do have a wide range of responses. Okay, thank you very much for that. Now, I'd like to go on and look at the writing paper. The changes here from the current format relate to the length of the answers, the type of input, the task focus in Part 1, now always an essay in which candidates summarize and comment on views and input texts. And in Part 2, the range of task types no longer includes a proposal, although there will still be a choice of 2 set text questions. The biggest change here is the introduction of a completely new task type to Cambridge English writing tests. The compulsory discursive essay that we're introducing into Part 1 of Cambridge English Proficiency will give the paper a slightly stronger academic feel. Candidates will have 2 input texts. Each input text will be about 100 words. They'll come from different sources. They'll be on the same topic, but they may contain either complementary or contrasting opinions. And each contains 2 main points which need to be summarized in the candidate's answer. Now, we've introduced the summary into the writing paper. Some of you who are familiar with the current use of English will know that there's a summary task in the current use of English paper. We brought it into the writing paper where it seems to fit a bit better as part of a wider essay. This is one of the key points raised in the Common European Framework writing descriptors at C2 level, where it states the ability to identify key points and summarize a text is integral to writing at C2 level. The descriptors state that candidates at the level should be able to summarize information from different sources, reconstructing arguments and accounts in a coherent presentation of the overall result. This is what we're trying to achieve with our new Part 1 task. Trialing that we've done on this indicates that we've been successful in doing that. On your screen now is an example of the new Part 1 task. There is a fixed rubric which tells candidates to write an essay summarizing and evaluating the key points from both texts. The level of the text is C1 level, which is of course below proficiency level. This is to ensure that candidates can quickly access the content of the text and start planning their writing. We wanted to ensure that we weren't testing reading skills in the writing paper. Now, this sample is one of several samples that we'll make available. There is currently a sample on our website in a document called Proficiency Specifications. But also, there will be an additional sample paper available in May. The new Proficiency Handbook will be on our website in May, and that will feature a completely new sample paper. There will be a link to this page at the end of the webinar. Okay, we'll now move on and look at the listening and speaking papers. But if you have any questions on any of the changes we've looked at, we will have time at the end to answer some of these. So please add questions to the text chat and we'll do our best to get through as many as possible at the end. Now let's take a look at the listening paper. The format of the new paper is very similar to the existing Cambridge English Proficiency listening paper. The task type and test focus of Part 4, the multiple matching task, is the only major difference. Part 4 now carries 10 marks. It's not in the current proficiency exam, but this task type is not new in the context of other general English exams. A similar task is in Cambridge English Advanced, and a slightly different version of the task also appears in the listening test of Cambridge English First. Now, I'd like to talk you through a summary of the main changes in the listening paper and give you a bit of the background on that. Okay. Well, we have reduced the length of part 1 from 4 extracts to 3. This has allowed us to introduce the new part 4, which has 2 additional items. So we've been able to do that without compromising coverage or reliability in the test. In fact, we've added 2 items to the test. We've retained the current part 2 to ensure that the paper has a productive task, one in which a candidate has to write a response rather than select A, B, C. This allows for construct coverage of note-taking, and it balances and complements part 3, and also ensures that we maintain a wide range of test focuses. Part 3 is now predominantly an equal two-way dialogue, which allows for more realistic speaker interaction and the introduction of more testing focuses. It allows for a varying level of formality. We can have informal to formal discussions in that part. Part 4, as I've said, introduces the multiple matching task. This task is more versatile than the current Part 4 task and allows for the introduction of further testing focuses. It's a proven test of high-level, very complex listening skills, and therefore we felt it was very appropriate to include in Proficiency. Okay, that's a summary of the listening test. Let's have a look at the speaking test. Now, out of all the papers, the speaking paper is the one in which there are the fewest changes between the current and the new format. In part 1, we've now trimmed that to 2 minutes from the current 3. We've shortened this part by having only one follow-up question after the initial introduction, and this brings it in line with Cambridge English Advanced and Cambridge English First. Part 3 is now 10 minutes long, down from the current 12 minutes. Again, as with part 1, there is only one follow-up question after each candidate long turn. This rounds off the long turn nicely, but crucially, it avoids overlap with the discussion which follows. Now, here are some statements about the speaking paper that students have made. Have a look and tell me which one is most common amongst your students. Right. Well, it looks like for most of you, your students tell you that they get nervous before the speaking test, but they know that it's really important. But again, there are a wide range of answers. Thank you very much for that. That's a summary of the main changes to the exam. I'm now going to hand you back to my colleague, Nick Charge.
Thanks, Ron. That was a very clear summary of the main changes, I thought. Now, there's a lot more detail you can find out, and you'll need to look at it in your own time, and I'll tell you where to find that later on. But what I'd like to do now is to get your view on which feature you like best about the revised examination. Can you click on A, B, C or D and tell us which feature you like best? Right, well, it looks like A is winning out, in that most of you like the fact that it takes less time. And indeed, that was one of our major considerations. but you also like the new task types and the fact that the key testing focuses haven't changed. So that's very reassuring. If you remember, at the beginning of the presentation, I went through the aims in revising proficiency. And we feel quite confident that we have achieved those aims. We feel the test is fit for purpose. It is more relevant for higher education. It is more relevant for employers. We feel we've introduced a sort of a fresh and a modern feel to the examination. But at the same time, we've maintained its user-friendliness and accessibility. And we've certainly not compromised on the C2 level standard, which is vital for Cambridge Proficiency. It sets the standard for C2 examinations. We went through a fairly exhaustive process to revise the examination. We consulted first of all by questionnaires, written questionnaires. We then went out into the market and talked to key stakeholders and got their views. We've also, for the last 12 months, been trialling the examination. And we feel that the changes we've made have been, at the moment, have been well received. They certainly work from a testing perspective, and in summary, they make for a better examination. Some key dates for you now. The launch date is March 2013. That is the first outing of the new examination. As Ron mentioned, in May this year, the handbook will be produced for the revised test, and that will include sample papers and sample answers for the writing to give you an idea of what is expected. There are also all the bulletins available on the different papers that have been produced over time. What we're going to do now is have a short break, and we're going to play you a video about the support materials available, and then we'll come back and answer as many of your questions as possible. Thank you.
The Cambridge ESOL Teacher Support website is an invaluable free resource for all teachers preparing learners for Cambridge English exams. The website includes detailed information about every paper, including the format, timing and number of questions, a detailed explanation of the types of task used in each part of the paper, a teacher's handbook and sample papers, which can be downloaded to be used in your own time. The Advice for Teachers section offers teaching tips and strategies for every paper of each exam. Teaching Resources contains easy-to-find downloadable lesson plans for every part of every paper. These are added to and updated monthly. There are forums where you can share your experiences and learn from the experiences of others. You can find up-to-date news about Cambridge ESOL's free support products in our monthly newsletter. This has previews of new resources, interesting discussions on the forums, and major live and online events. Subscription to the newsletter is free when you register on the Teacher Support website. It's easy to register. You simply click on the Register button. You can view and download back issues of the newsletter on the e-media page. Here you can also find useful webinars and podcasts. We'd love to know what you need to help you prepare your learners for Cambridge ESOL qualifications. In order to make our website better, please send us your comments by clicking on the Contact Us button on the home page. Cambridge English Teacher is a unique online space where English language teachers all over the world can connect and develop. It's a place for teachers who are serious about their profession, a place that offers resources, courses and connections to help shape individual career paths. Feel free to look around and discover what's on offer. Once you register, you can start enjoying the benefits of being part of a professional development site that truly understands your needs as a teacher.
Registering as a guest member is simple, and you will be given immediate access to a free online self-study language awareness course. You can also purchase other high-quality professional development courses written by Cambridge ESOL and Cambridge University Press. Our pre-course quizzes and sample units will help you decide which courses are best for you, and at the end of each one, you will be able to print a certificate of completion. In addition, you will have access to articles and webinars by famous names from the world of English language teaching. And you will be able to join discussion forums, engaging with other professionals like you globally. You can also build a unique Cambridge English teacher profile, adding details of your career history, professional development, and qualifications to showcase and share your achievements with friends, colleagues, and contacts.
Investing in full membership of Cambridge English Teacher will open up even more benefits to you. You will receive a 12-month digital subscription to English Teaching Professional magazine and discounts on all of the courses on the site. Plus, you'll be invited to exclusive members-only professional development webinars, helping to inspire you to reach your full potential. Join now, and we'll give you the flexibility and support you need to develop your teaching career just the way you want it. The Cambridge preparation materials are the official preparation materials for all Cambridge ESOL exams, with the exception of IELTS. Materials for all products are branded with the joint logos and under the Cambridge English name. This includes materials for BULATs and IELTS. Teachers and students can use our official preparation materials with confidence. This is because they have been developed by a team of internationally recognized authors and experts in language assessment. They are also the only exam preparation materials that can use the Cambridge Learner Corpus. This is a bank of thousands of student scripts from Cambridge English exams that allows us to identify exactly what support different candidates need. Our range of official support and preparation materials includes the Objective series of course books, supplementary materials including Cambridge Vocabulary and Cambridge Grammar, a range of published and online practice tests. We also publish and distribute official IELTS practice materials for the IELTS partners, and digital e-learning products including 100% online and blended learning courses, and a range of mobile apps. To order the official preparation materials for Cambridge ESOL exams, please contact your local Cambridge University Press office. For more information, go to the ELT section of the Cambridge University Press website. The official preparation materials for Cambridge English Proficiency includes the following range.
Now, we've had lots of questions sent in, and it's going to be a challenge to select and to answer them. We won't be able to answer them all, I'm afraid. We'll do our best. So let's start. I'm sorry, I don't know, it doesn't tell me who posed the question here, so I can't give your name. You might recognise the question. One of the first questions here is the validity of the exam. What is the validity of the exam? Is it 2 years as for IELTS? The answer is no. A Cambridge qualification is valid for life. It doesn't expire. So once you get your Cambridge Proficiency certificate, it is valid indefinitely. Let me keep on looking for some more questions. There are some questions here about the percentages for reading and writing. Ron, do you want to cover the percentages for each of the papers?
Yes, because the new reading and use of English is effectively 2 papers combined, it's double weighted in the final equation. So it's worth 40% of the total marks, whereas writing, listening and speaking are each worth 20%. So that's the breakdown in the percentages between the 4 papers. Lots
of you are asking about published material and published support. We released the specifications for the new examination 2.5 years before the launch date. We're obliged to do this for the publishers. So we gave the publishers 2.5 years notice of the complete specifications. We believe many of them are in the process of producing books. Ron, do you know any more details on that?
I know all the publishers have attended meetings with us. They're all aware. As you said, Nick, we unveiled the specifications to them in 2010, so they've had a fair bit of time to repurpose their material and to produce new course material. Obviously, we're producing our own support material, as you've just seen. But all the major publishers, to my understanding, are busily doing the same, and I would expect course books and material to be out imminently.
And just to reiterate on sample papers, there's a sample paper in the handbook, which will be published in May this year.
And there's also a sample paper already available on our website. It's in a document called Proficiency Specifications, which is a bit like a handbook, but all it gives you is the design of the test and sample papers. So the handbook has more information in it, and that's what's coming out in May. But you can access a sample paper right now.
Another question here on security, test photos. As you know, for Cambridge English Advanced, test photos have been in place. So when the candidates turn up for the examination, they're photographed on the morning of the test. That's been in place since this year, certainly January. We are bringing test photos in for all our other examinations over the course of the rest of this year. By the time the new test goes live in 2013, test photos will be obligatory. Right. There's a question here which says it seems to be going to a more academic stance. Will students still need expressions, phrasal verbs, and informal English? Ron?
Yes, very much so. It's not going to be strictly an academic test of English. So it's not English for academic purposes. It is still very much in the general realm, but it has a very strong academic flavor. But we will be testing on all ranges of the spectrum, from formal to informal. So candidates will need to be familiar with and be able to produce language in a variety of different registers. So all of that still applies.
Another question here regarding oral examiners for the speaking test. Will they have to be retrained? The answer is no. The test is changing minimally. The test specifications and assessment criteria have not changed, so no retraining is required. Scrolling down here. Bear with me. These are all about publishing and publishers' books. We've answered that one. This is a good question, and it says, will the old style certificate lose any of its significance? I think what is meant by that was, if you hold a proficiency qualification now, will it be devalued with the introduction of the new test? The answer is no. It's at C2 standard now. It will remain at C2 standard after 2013. The qualification is the qualification, and it retains its validity. So the answer to that is no, it won't lose any of its significance. I'm not sure we can answer this question. It says, how can we prepare students to get a high score in CPE?
Lots and lots of practice.
Yes. This is a question about recognition. Is the qualification accepted by UK universities for candidates without GCSE English? The answer is yes. If you hold a proficiency qualification, then that is it is recognised by universities, and you don't need anything else to prove your standard of English. Another question here, what will the set texts be?
I knew somebody was going to ask that question. I don't have that information at my fingertips. The set texts are listed on the website, however, so if you link into the Proficiency landing page, you will be able to see the set text, and they're listed for coming years as well. They generally are in operation for 2 years at a time.
Another very practical question here is, with the revised exam, is the fee going to be revised? The fee will remain the same. It'll neither increased or decreased, apart from in line with inflation. So the answer is no.
Lots there on fees.
Yes, a question here about, are you piloting the revised exam? Maybe it's worth saying a little bit about where we trialled the papers.
We did extensive trialling on all the papers throughout the development of new Proficiency, and we went to a number of different countries in Europe and South America mainly, as those are key areas where CP is taken. Spain, Italy, Brazil, Argentina, to name a few. So we did a wide range of trialling, and it was quite extensive. We did a number of rounds. After each round of trialling, we did further revisions of the specifications and produced new material for trial. So it was a long and involved process. Now that the test specifications are finally finalized, and the test is due to go live, we, of course, are now in operational phase of production of material, which means basically that all of the material that we're producing is trialed and pre-tested in the usual way for us. And I'd like to say that for those of you who aren't aware, all material that goes into our tests is trialed and pre-tested before it gets anywhere near a live test, to make sure that it meets the quality standard that is required. Any material, tasks or any items that don't meet the statistical parameters or the quality parameters don't go into a live test. Pre-testing is very, very important, and if any of you would like to get involved in that, do please contact us, and we'd be happy to help out, because it is a crucial stage in the production process.
Yeah, thank you, Ron, for making that point. Another question here about extended certification. Will an A grade at Cambridge English Advanced still be a CPE C grade? It's not quite the right question, actually. Currently, an A grade at Cambridge English Advanced is awarded C2 level status, and that will continue to be the case. It isn't a CPE qualification because they haven't taken the CPE test. But the extended certification will remain in place. So an A grade at CAE will still get CAE level. This is a good question. In the statement of results, will reading and use of English appear as one, or will they be separated in the profile? And the answer is they will be separated.
Yeah.
So you will see a separate profile for your reading ability and your use of English ability, as you do now. The difference is it'll be in one paper. It'll appear as a separate profile on the statement of results.
Yeah, you'll still have five profiles.
There's a question here about why we've removed proposals from the writing part 2.
We looked again at this issue of overlap, and we decided that the proposal and the report were very similar as genre, and we thought that report is actually more definable as a genre than proposal, which is very, very context driven. So we felt that it didn't really serve a purpose in the new test, so we decided to remove it.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Will the new Proficiency be subject to the new writing mark scales? The answer is yes, as it is now.
Yeah.
And if you don't know about the new writing scales, you can find information on our website.
You can, and the handbook will have a a section explaining the new writing mark schemes. In fact, I think the Proficiency Handbook for the current test also has a section explaining the new writing scale, so it's very worth reading.
Someone here thinks, well, they seem to think that the exam is not as, from what we've said, that the exam is not as difficult as it is now. All we can say is that on the trialling that we've done, indicates that the papers are still at C2 level. One of our main focuses in the revision was to maintain the level of difficulty and maintain the coverage. We believe we've done both. Until the test goes live, of course, no one knows for sure, but all the work we've done indicates it is still at C2 level and will remain so. Question about photographs. Are we going to have photographs in the speaking paper?
Yes, we still have photographs in part 2, so there's been no change to that.
Another one here about minimum age. What is the minimum age to take proficiency? Well, the answer is there's no official minimum age. We don't say you can't take it. Having said that, the content of the exam, of the reading paper particularly, is set at a fairly high cognitive level, and would be it's aimed at people at 17 plus age range, 16 in some cases. So I would say that is the sort of minimum age, really.
Yeah.
But it's not policed.
No, but it's a test aimed at adults. It's not suitable for very young test takers.
This is an interesting question. It says, is there a danger that the shorter exam will be seen as a dumbed down version? We don't think so. We are in the process of revising most of our exams that are general English exams at the moment. Currently, proficiency is 6 hours long. We feel that's too long an exam, and in fact it doesn't need to be that long to test at that level, and we think that the 3 hours 56, which is what we've got it down to, is ample time to test students at that C2 level and come to a conclusion about their language ability.
I think all the trialling indicates that that's the case. The feedback that we've got from candidates who've taken the new test is very much that, no, it's still the same level of challenge. So the perception amongst our trial candidates is that we haven't dumbed it down. The evidence, in terms of the statistics that we collect on item difficulty performance, is that it certainly isn't.
Here's a good question. Is it likely there'll be changes to FC and CAE2, as in the merging of the use of English and the reading papers? As I said, we're currently in the process of looking at Cambridge First and Cambridge Advanced. Those tests will not be, the new versions of those tests will not be available to 2015. Having said that, the new specifications for those tests will be available this summer. We're certainly considering merging the two papers as we have with Proficiency. It seems to be a sensible thing to do. The specification, we can't confirm this yet, but the specifications will be available in the summer, and that's 2.5 years before the exams go live. Question here about recognition. How come Proficiency is not enough to access the USA academic and professional markets? That's a good question. The USA, traditionally, we've not marketed Proficiency or Cambridge Advanced in the USA to date. We are in the process of starting that now, and we are aggressively marketing both Proficiency and Advanced in the States with American universities. And I would expect to see some movement there within the next 12 to 18 months. I've been given 2 more questions, so I'm going to choose my questions carefully. Goodness. Can you see one there, Ron?
We've covered a lot of this ground
We have,
already.
yes. There's quite a lot of repetition here. Right. Well, this is quite a good question. Will the candidates be given specific percentages for each paper? I think he means each part, or just an overall one. Currently, proficiency candidates get a result for get an overall result, and they get a graphical profile which gives their indication of their performance in the papers. There's no pass or fail for each of those papers, nor do you have to pass or fail. You don't have to pass all the papers to achieve a qualification. That will still be the same case for proficiency. Anything to add there, Ron?
No, I think that's covered it.
Right, one more question. Okay, so maybe we should finish with this one. In the writing paper, do acronyms count for the number of words they stand for? Well, that's rather a strange question to finish with. The answer is no. They count as one word if they're used, and they should be used sensibly. Let's try and find one question to finish with. This is a question about the speaking test. Does the performance of the speaking test is paired? Does the performance of the other candidate on the speaking paper impact on my performance?
No. Examiners are trained to rate each candidate individually. Candidates' performances are not dependent on the performance of their partner in any way. So, as I say, there's strict examiner training to manage pairings where you have one very strong and one very weak candidate so that nobody is disadvantaged.
Thanks, Rob. I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Thank you very much for attending today. Some of you have attended in the middle of the night. Thank you very much for that too. Now, we hope we see you again one of the future webinars, and the next one is on Cambridge English First for Schools, and you can register for this now. The information is up on the website. So it just remains for us to say goodbye and thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.